everybody, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Secure After Dark podcast. I'm your host, Tanner, and I'm super stoked about this particular podcast. What I've got with me here is two of the developers behind a tool that is really something I've come to love and I just live out of at this point, called Netexec. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, we got Alex here.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a consultant at Digitrace, and I've been working some time in the cybersecurity field, but not that long. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and then we've got Tomas here.
Yeah, hello. So I'm working on Netexec and other open source projects like Impackets or Don Papi, and I'm a red teamer consultant.
Awesome, right on. So I guess for the people who are not aware or not familiar with it, what is Netexec in your own words? What would you say? What is the tool and where did it come from?
You want to go, Alex?
Sure. I think for me it is kind of a Swiss Army knife that describes it very well, and that already leads to the original source, the predecessor. Greg McExec, where this originates from. And for me, it's a way to utilize a lot of great library, especially Impacket, to just get things faster and more convenient to use. Yeah.
So where you mentioned crack map exec, that's something I wanted to ask about. So that was a project that I had used pretty extensively. I think most people who are actively pen testers or have even studied for certifications at this point are very familiar with crack map. I find less people are familiar with Netexec, but it has been around for how long now? A couple of years or?
I think we started in 2023.
Okay. So going on 2 years. Yeah, that sounds about right. So what I guess what happened? I know crack map is it's no longer maintained. It still does, function and everything, but really if you there's zero reason you should still be on it. You should move to Netexec. So what is kind of what happened where it was a totally new project?
So at first, Crop Map Exec was maintained by Builder on Porchetta. And after a few years, MPGen, you might know, which is also another collaborator on Netexec and is also a maintainer of the project. In 2019, I think he started to work a lot on Crap Map Exec. He made the tool work on Python 3. And he quickly became the sole maintainer of Crap Map at that time. And I think we started to work on Crap Map Exec, Alex, Marshall, and I around 2022, I think.
Yeah.
And at one time, MPGen stopped working on Crap Map Exec, and we wanted to work we still wanted to work on it with Alex and Marshall, but we wanted to work on a project that was really only open source, because the Crap Map Exec was not open source, it was a sponsorship. So if you wanted to have the latest functionalities, you needed to pay a license on Porchetta, which was not expensive at all, but it's another strategy, it's another philosophy.
Right. Yeah, we had actually subscribed to that just because we used it. We liked the features as they came out, but we were all on board to support the project.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. If I may add, we were also a subscriber, but I think one of the reasons we also wanted to make it open source and not pay for it is because this project really lives from the contributions of people working in this field. A lot of stuff gets added by people discovering new things, opening up PRs and stuff, and it felt kind of wrong to charge money for that, if that makes sense. And we just wanted to go fully open source. That's why we created Pennyworth, and so that everyone can freely open up issues and pull requests, because that was kind of hard to do on the old Gitty, I think it was, where the closed source of Porchetta was. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that makes sense. So that leads me to a question I had a couple of people from our communities kind of ask, which is, are you guys ever planning on commercializing or kind of maybe doing something like Rapid7 did to Metasploit, or is it just flat out open source the whole way? What's in the future?
No, we're not planning to make it sponsorship or anything. We want to make it open source for unlimited time. Without Patreon or anything.
Yeah.
Right on.
That
sounds
kind of the philosophy.
Yeah, awesome. Good. Well, I mean, I love to hear that. I'm a big proponent for all things open source. I think that's how you end up with not only something that's more accessible, but I think you generally end up with a better product that way as well, because you never know who's going to step in and be able to help in some sort of a significant way. And I know I've seen the new version just came out, so we'll talk about that in a minute for sure. I believe 1.4, right, just came out.
Yeah.
So. Great name, by the way. Whoever came up with the name suggestion, incredible name. So I think you end up with a much better product for sure. One thing I wanted to ask is about what's kind of the most significant improvement since it's become its own standing, its own standing product. What are some of the things that you guys are proud about having added or excited about?
Oh man, there's so much thing we worked on Netexec. For me, one thing I'm really proud of having added in Netexec, but it was also in CrowdMapExec at first. It's on Kerberos authentication. And also DPAPI supports in the project. I think it's for me one of the thing I'm proud about adding it to the project.
Yes, DPAPI is very, very useful. It's something I had used a couple of times, but since it's been rolled into CrackMap, it's become part of my standard workflow. I think that it's amazing how much of it evades EDR as is. Just using the no system flag, it seems to bypass basically everything. Even whenever we're doing kind of like a purple team type of thing, where we're wanting to find the alerting for it. It's a lot more difficult to get alerting going for that.
Yeah, it's simply SMB gets functionality, so it's really hard for EDR products to see anything. But
well, it works great.
Yeah, but Alex and Marshall also worked on heavy functionalities.
Yeah, there's so much. I think it's been half a year since the last release, and I already keep forgetting things that we have added in this release because it's so long. Already the patch notes took a lot of time or the release notes. It's not the wiki rundown. But there were so many great additions. For example, the time roasting. I don't know if you're aware, but NTP responses in Active Directory are like not signed, but and hashes added to that, where you can, from an unauthenticated perspective, get the computer or a hash with a computer password. So you can brute force from an unauthenticated perspective the computer passwords. Or also MPGN added certificate authentication, which was really, really cool, I think. And the backup operator module, where you can prefetch from a backup operator to domain admin and dump the NTDS DID. Also a really cool addition. And for me personally, what I'm proud of in the last 3 weeks is a bit of improvement on the LDAP protocol, because like at least in German, we have a few non-ASCII characters, and it's been quite a pain to work in LDAP with that. So I've been trying to fix encoding, and for example, I made up an pull request to Impacket, where you can finally search for non-ASCII characters. So the German domain administrator is something you couldn't look up until now.
I can see that being a giant. I've never really even considered that as an issue, but yeah, that makes sense that would be a big problem. I imagine that's a problem you probably face with other tools as well.
Yeah, to be honest, in France, we also have strange characters which are non-ASCII, and like for example on Don Papi, which also relies on Impacket, I have encoding problems every time. But yeah, it's classic ASCII problems for European people, I think, and other people.
There's things we take for granted in the States.
Maybe, yes. We're crashing everywhere. Listing shares that are non-ASCII characters can also be a problem, or were a problem in the past.
So in other words, you're saying for defenders, they should be using strange non-ASCII characters for share names and for usernames.
Best recommendation ever. Best mitigation.
Yeah. Well, use it in passwords and you're safe to go.
Yeah, right. There's some truth to that. There certainly is, because if you're just talking about a standard type of hashcat word list or best 64 dive rules, you're not going to have any of that in there typically, unless you've explicitly created lists that have those non-ASCII characters. I know that there are some, like there is like German word lists, and there are German rules for the German word lists. But yeah, that's a totally valid strategy, in my opinion, is throw some, I mean, I've done it myself, throw some non-ASCII characters in the password. So it's not a bad idea.
Absolutely.
So how do you guys view Netexec in being used in not only penetration testing, which I think we all do, but in more defensive security? And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for defenders to be using this in their day-to-day, even sysadmins to an extent. What do you guys think about that?
I think it can be a really great tool, but you have to be aware of what this tool does, because it can be dangerous if you forget the no brute force flag, and you don't know that as a sysadmin. You can log out your entire domain. So, or for example, passwords are stored in the NXCDB, and that leaves non-hashed passwords on the system. So you should be aware of what you're doing, and in the best scenario, maybe throw out your VM at the end of the workday or reset it or something. But if you're aware of the things in Netexec, it can be a really good tool to immediately detect if your changes that you did do what you want, right? If you try to enable SMB signing and you want to quickly check, you can just throw it against your server, and you see it in the header.
That's the way I check. I mean, even if I'm not necessarily doing a pen test, just say doing some consulting or risk assessment type of work, I'm still using it to check for those things. Is SMB signing enabled, LDAP signing, that sort of thing. Which you recently made some LDAP updates. I was able to mess with those yesterday. I was on a penetration test yesterday. As I mentioned to you guys, I was going to attempt to see how much of my testing I could do explicitly, just exclusively using Netexec. Ran into a few things that I was like, okay, these are common things that I can't really do in it. And I don't know if it's totally appropriate. Like IPMI, still running into old IPMI where we can dump hashes. The old Metasploit module for IPMI. I don't know where that would really fit into Netexec, but that would be pretty cool to have added. Or SNMP public strings, another very common thing that we still run into over here. But just thoughts. Would there be any consideration in adding other protocols, say SNMP, for example?
Sure. To be honest, I think we are really open on contribution from the community. If every time we have a contribution on adding another protocol, we try to see where we can fit. To be honest, I don't have a good example about a protocol we can add right now, but SNMP maybe it can be an idea to improve scanning, storing stuff in the database. Maybe it can be an idea.
One thing that we've found is we work in a fair amount of industrial control systems. And a lot of those are actually using SNMP typically by other names, but a lot of the times the protocols that they're using as their in-house specific protocol is really just renamed SNMP on a different port. And so you can use it. We found a friend of mine found the majority of the traffic controllers. He found some 0 days and traffic lights. And he found that it's just open SNMP, and that's pretty much the exploit. Once you can figure out their community strings, they read write SNMP, all of them. So yeah, we've had some fun with that recently. Yeah. So maybe there could be something there. And hey, if anybody's listening to this who is a fairly savvy developer who wants to get involved, how do they get involved? Let's say somebody says, I love that idea, let's make it do SNMP, and they want to help. How can they help?
I think the best way to get in touch with us is the Discord server, because we are all on it, and we can quickly respond to that. I got that notification on my mobile phone, so just chat there. There are also a lot of other contributors that are willing to help or can really help you out in the first steps. And besides that, just DM me on Discord or Twitter.
Yeah, right on. Well, hopefully, we get some sharp people listening who are interested in jumping in. The Discord really is a good Discord, not only just for the project itself, but almost as a community on its own. I see very often people ask questions there that are not exclusive to the tool, but they're stuck on a penetration test, or they have red teaming questions or something like that. And there's a lot of experienced people in there that are usually totally happy to jump in and answer some questions, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
And did you guys ever expect to have kind of the tool or community around it to where it is whenever you got started?
Sorry, what was the question?
Did you ever see? I feel like the tool is growing quite large. It's built into Kali Linux. A lot of people are using it. There's lots of documentation outside of the wiki, which the wiki is great, but you find blogs where people have written up their whole workflows around Netexec. The Discord is very active. There's lots of discussion on Twitter. Did you expect for there to be this much community kind of based around it whenever you guys started this project?
I'm really blown away how popular it is, to be honest. I mean, we have as a basis, we had redefining, and that was already quite popular. So that definitely carries over, but it's incredible how many people enjoy using it and find it helpful. Really grateful for that. Also the contributions which come with that. It's really nice and so much more than I personally expected. It's still crazy how tweets are going viral, or at least absurd amounts for me. So yeah.
I think there's very good reason for it, because it makes life easy for us, really, at the end of the day. You have most of the things that you need in one spot. And it's simplified. Even syntax is simplified on some of the just standard M packet modules, and so that's been super handy, for me at least. One
Great.
thing I was want to ask about is what are some of the challenges you guys faced? What are some of the things during development that have been, maybe more difficult than imagined, or even some things that you wanted to do but weren't able to?
I think one of the hardest thing we have is dependency management on the project. We often make cleanup on the dependencies we have in the project, and when we want to make let's say a Python upgrade, we have to check that every dependencies are compatible with Python. So I think, yeah, this is one of the hard thing with developing this project.
Absolutely. I would join to that, or add to that bringing that stuff on Kali is also quite more work than you would expect, because in Kali every dependency have to be or packages depend on multiple packages. For example, Impacket has a lot of tools that are or a lot of tools using Impacket in Kali. So if we want to upgrade Netexec and we need an Impacket upgrade, then you have to check every package that uses Impacket so that it doesn't crash. That's quite some work that the Kali team has to do, but that also explains why it takes time to get things moving into Kali. Some other problems we face, I think, is sometimes to find a good basis for a protocol. For example, the SSH protocol is okay, but at the current stage, it has quite some problems, because just the underlying tool is not that reliable, in my opinion. We have a great pull request open that we have to review, which could improve things quite a lot, but that's also a hurdle. Or, for example, NFS, one of the latest added protocols. It was quite difficult to find a good tool that implements the NFS protocol, because honestly, we don't want to implement the whole protocol from the scratch,
Right.
Yeah, that's.
Well, I mean, that makes total sense. And NFS is another great example of how I think Netexec has improved a lot of people's testing. If you go look through workflows of people, you rarely see NFS in it. And it's there, and it's something that I was aware of and had used before, but I wouldn't say it was part of something that I did in my typical, day 1, 2, 3 type of workflow. Now it is, and the amount of times that I end up finding NFS somewhere on a network is pretty surprising, and it's usually totally unsecured.
Absolutely. It flew under my radar as well, I think, until Thermonix, a contributor, opened up the pull request for NFS. And I think, at least for my pentest, it helps a lot as well. And a lot of issues come with NFS that you wouldn't expect, in my opinion, at least. I don't know if you've seen it, but the latest improvement in NFS, where you can escape to the root file system, is, in my opinion, quite powerful. We had on the last engagement a few systems where we could find quite a interesting stuff. So yeah.
Is there any avenue to get a shell there?
Absolutely. You can, on Debian-based systems, etc Shadow is owned by root Shadow, if I recall correctly. And the default Debian settings allow you to just escape to the root file system and then overwrite the etc Shadow file. So you can just enter your own hash into some of the users, and you own the system.
Nice. Very cool. Very
Pretty
cool.
cool.
I haven't gotten to use that yet. That was a very
Cool.
new update though, just within the last couple of days. So I look forward to that. That'll be a fun thing to put on the as a initial access to the network is yeah, we plugged into the network and then we hit your Buffalo file storage share and that'll be
Absolutely.
that'll be a whole lot of fun. Um,
Yeah.
so talking about Kali as one of the issues. So our team uses, we use Kali, but we have some standard changes that we make. And one of those being uninstall Impacket, reinstall current, uninstall Netexec, reinstall current. What do you, Pipex has obviously made this convenient for us. I have not used Poetry as much as I should have. It seems like you guys are fans. What's your recommended way for a tester to really be running it? Let's say they're installing Kali. Do you think they should just use it as is, or do you think they should be uninstalling Pipex, or what's the suggested method currently?
I think the best method to use Netexec with the latest functionalities is using it with Pipex. And Pipex with the Git URL. I think that's the best way. Poetry is more when you want to add functionality and develop stuff on Netexec. Pipex will package the tool better than Poetry.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, that's essentially the way we've been doing it, and it seems to work great. I just wasn't sure if there was something I'm missing out on, not using Poetry. So
Absolutely.
but I think for most of my use, it sounds like got it on the right track there.
Yeah. What I could add, if you want to modify Netexec, what I do is I'm often fixing bugs on an assessment. You can just clone it and then hit pipx dot and then -e. That will make it modifiable. So if you modify the cloned repository, you can instantly see the changes in pipx. But I also recommend pipx because there you have it on the in the path, so you can execute it from any directory.
Okay, all right.
For the trick.
Yeah, that sounds handy, especially whenever Impacket decides to break something or something like that. Go in and just revert the one file rather than reinstalling everything. I don't know. So I had a recent run in with something like that.
Yes.
So one of the things that I think is a little bit difficult for me to use at the moment, but as I've been using it more, I really enjoy is some of the integrations, such as with Bloodhound. You've got integrations with Empire as well. So tell me a little about these integrations. Are these just tools that you guys use standard, or are these things that were requested, or kind of any more? Let's talk about integrations.
So to be honest, I never used the Empire plugin of Netexec. Bloodhound, I tend to use it a bit, but recently I'm really more using Rusthound, which is a Rust version of Bloodhound because it's faster. But Bloodhound in Netexec is working nicely, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there an integration built in for that?
To be honest, I am not sure. Alex, do you know about it?
Integration for Bloodhound or Azure Hound, or what did you mean? Rusthound?
No, Bloodhound integration.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
the
yes.
standard Bloodhound thing for Rust or anything like that, does it still have the same integrations? Well, I guess if you're just using the Bloodhound, like the Neo4j and running everything like that, then it's all the same, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's there is also the new Bloodhound, and I'm not sure that that the Bloodhound plugin in Netexec works with Bloodhound Community Edition. to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are moving to Community Edition.
Yeah, I think the last time I checked it didn't work, but then also after that it worked once, so I'm not fully sure. The current Bloodhound integration or the collector is from Dirk Jan, and he also has a Bloodhound CE version, but it's so technically you could switch to Bloodhound CE, but currently I'm not sure how we could integrate it really good because it has the same package name. So you can't install it both at the same time.
Yeah.
That's kind of a problem. So if we would
Yeah.
like to switch to Bloodhound CE, we would have to remove the old one. Maybe we'll do that in the future, but not. Yeah, I don't know if it's good to switch now.
Yeah. So is anybody there a big Empire user, a big Empire fan?
To be honest, I never used the
Yeah.
Empire.
Yeah, same.
I
recently.
have tried to use Empire, and I would say I've used it a little bit. There recently, they updated in the Iron Pie module whenever that came out. That worked pretty well to skate it past most EDR, but
Okay.
of course that was fairly short lived, it seems. And it's just never been my go-to. You know, we're kind of a Cobalt Strike shop whenever it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting seeing it. I feel like a lot of tools have Empire integrations, and I feel like it could be very cool if I could get good with it. And I know the guys who maintain it and who have built the tools. You know, they're wizards with it. I did a PowerShell obfuscation class with them a couple of years ago, and some of the stuff they were showing, it was just like, oh my god, I've never even considered this. These are, there was some great things that they're showing. And then I sit down to try to use, the tool, and it's not my wheelhouse, right? I need malleable profiles, and yeah, we'll work with that. So, is there any other tools you guys have talked about integrating, especially C2s?
I don't think, no, we have not talked about integrating C2s recently. To be honest, I don't use C2s and Netexec at the same time because C2 is more about upsec operation when I don't want to get caught, and Netexec is really when I want to get caught. It's basically when I'm doing a basic assessment and I don't care about getting caught. So for me, using both at the same time, it's not really compatible.
No, I totally agree. I think your logic makes sense. There were points where I would launch C2 because it was easier to, for example, steal tokens and things like that.
Yeah,
But
sure.
now that those functions are built into Netexec, I find myself using that for impersonating users. But yeah, I mean, I think especially with the tool to where it is, I don't really find myself using many command and control servers. Typically for red team, or if there's more of a proof of concept external where they want us to get a beacon staged on a machine, something like that. Those are a little more specific, tailored to that, I guess. So yeah, well, the Bloodhound integration is very cool though. I have used that, and that's been pretty handy to have, especially integrating some of the database functions and everything. It's pretty neat. So anybody
Yes,
listening should give that a shot. It's very cool.
absolutely. Turn on the Bloodhound flag so it owns the users and computers. That can be quite nice to see or to better see paths to the domain admin when you own low proof users. I use that quite a lot because it's just, or I missed once I missed a computer or nearly missed a computer where I had admin access and that could have escalated to domain admin. And that was the point I integrated it to Netexec so that also computer accounts are owned. Yeah, I think it's quite nice to have.
I had the exact same situation happen to me, where I had, you're going so quick, you've only got so much time on a penetration test.
Yeah.
And just running through it, it's easy to sometimes miss, like, oh, I did gain an account there, or if you're dumping hashes from something, you miss one when you're copy and pasting. Like it's easy to miss those certain things. So I mean, being thorough as a tester definitely matters. But it helps. I think it definitely helps. Um,
Absolutely.
So, what kind of feedback have you guys gotten? This is another thing I'm curious about, just in general from community. It seems very well received with everybody that's familiar with it. The biggest issue I find is that not enough people are familiar with it, which is largely over here. But
So I think like in my bubble, and that's the Discord server, people know very well of the tool, but then I'm always surprised when I read blog posts in 2024 or even 2025 and they still use Craig McExec. So that shows to me that I'm not like there is still quite a lot of people out there using Craig McExec, which I highly recommend switching to, obviously, Netexec, because it's just we fixed quite a lot of bugs since then. But yeah, I think the users that are using the tool are hopefully happy with it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think people are. It seems that way to me. I also think that, in my opinion, at least Cali, because it seems the majority of new people or people who are learning are on Cali. I think that's safe to say. A good amount of professionals, as well as students and amateurs, they're using Cali. Uh, I think removing CrackMap from Cali, as it is in my mind, sort of a defunct tool. Yes, it still works, but it's not maintained. It doesn't have near the functionality. Like you said, it has a lot of bugs that have been resolved. I think that it would be best to have them remove it personally. That way, whenever people they notice it's not there, they go, "Oh, what is it?" And they can realize it'll lead them to Netexec. Just personal idea on it. So
Yeah.
what are some things that people don't know that's built in? Like what are some of your favorite tools that is baked in, you guys use it, that people don't seem to be aware of?
You have an idea, Alex?
I'm still thinking.
Yeah, one of the functionality I like, it's really simple, but Netexec support FTP protocol. And I like to use Netexec to check for anonymous logon on FTP because it's really simple. You just have to, just use the CIDR. You put the VLAN, and you just use a -u anonymous, and when you hit an anonymous FTP accessible, it will tell you. It's really simple.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got our kind of our initial script, and that's part of it, right? Check for null sessions, shares, all the access you have there, anonymous FTP, root SSH. So some very, very basic things kind of scripted out for
Yeah.
some of the very first things that we do. And yeah, I just use -u tick tick -p tick tick, which seems to do anonymous as well. And yeah, just fire that. I almost always find something. It's rare that I don't find, and it may be a printer or something, but that's not to be overlooked. There can still be, PII or important documents stored on
Mhm.
some of those, printer FTPs. So I think that's very well worth looking at.
Absolutely. What came to my mind is the query functionality of the LDAP protocol, because sometimes you have modules that are doing stuff, or you don't quite know where this came from, or you just want to look up a raw object in LDAP. And in the past, I've been using LDAP search, probably like a lot of people. But I find the syntax very hard to get used to, so I just added it to Netexec. And I think that can be very powerful to just quickly look up something, some group, members of a group, or something like that, checking some attributes, Unix user password or user password attributes in LDAP can be quite powerful, or low-hanging fruits. That's something that probably is underlooked, or not that familiar to people.
Is that just doing LDAP query in the background? Is that what that's built on?
Yeah, exactly. You can just specify a filter and the attributes you want to have, and it's firing off the LDAP query and displaying it in a nice way, like decoding SIDs now. Added that a few days ago, but exactly, just decoding the LDAP stuff.
See, and I wasn't even aware. I was using LDAP query a few days ago or last week, I guess. So yeah, that's very good to know, and that's something I would much rather do because LDAP query is a pain with syntax, as you mentioned, and that's one of the strong points that I appreciate about the tool is just making syntax easier. For example, the course plus module that you guys have in. Um, I can't tell you the amount of owns, which I mean, I was using chorus.py before, but I mean, it's much easier to use it just rolled into Netexec. The syntax is easier. Everything's in one place. It's great. The amount of owns we've gotten with that has been pretty absurd. It's still a thing. DFS coerce is everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, love to hear that. That was one of a contributor that contributes quite a lot. So quite a nice module to have so that you have everything in one place, just fire it off and you will see what you can own with it. Quite powerful as well, in my opinion.
yeah. Well, even being able to do the, set it to a listener, that was something when it first launched I didn't realize. I thought it was just scanning for what was vulnerable, so I didn't realize it was fully exploiting and sending to your relay or to your responder. So that's super handy to have. So speaking of that, I will say the thing that I think would be the biggest improvement, maybe I'll find some time to try to help on, um, is I think the wiki maybe lags behind the actual tools that are implemented. Um, so is that something that you would think is needed for people to help out on the wiki who are familiar with using, or?
Absolutely. That's one of the, I think, blind spots. We now put in the pull request template a flag where you get reminded that if you add something new, you should also add it to the wiki. But also, we all, I think, do it on free time most of the time and have restricted time. And that's something that is overlooked very fast to just add it to the wiki. So yeah, if someone wants to contribute, feel free. Either DM us or just open up a pull request on the GitHub. That would be really helpful.
Yeah.
You hear that, everybody? Go help. Yeah. So what we talked about things that are not as well known. What would you say just is your favorite of all the things you guys have built or even things the community's built that you use? If you had to say this is my favorite feature that's built in, what would you say it is?
Wow, there is so much.
There's a lot. There is a lot.
I think for me, but it's the one of the most known stuff, but it's LSA in SAMDump and DP API. That's so powerful. Just do it across a whole range when you get local admin, or if you want to spray passwords. That's just really speeds up the process of looking as hosts.
Yep.
Yep.
Can you chain that together as well? I think you can, right? You can do tac LSA, tac SAM, tac. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's one command dump everything.
Yeah,
Yep.
Marshall added that a few I think years already ago.
Yeah.
You can chain flags and modules.
Modules
right?
also, yeah. Multiple modules at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. This is news to me. All right. I could definitely take advantage of that. I mean, that's all, it's all about speeding things up well, really, let's on the business side, right? Which is whenever you're a penetration testing company, your time is your product at the end of the day. You're selling the time of your testers, of your engineers to go out and do this. So anything that's saving time, that's speeding things up, is really saving money at the end of the day. So I think it's really important, even if it's something that, oh, this saves me 5 minutes. Yeah, but I do, 40 pen tests a year. Okay, maybe not quite, but okay, we do dozens of penetration tests a year, and you add that up over the course of a couple of years, you're talking about a fairly significant amount of time saved, especially whenever that's not just on one thing, it's on a dozen things.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And I think that's also one of the goals, because the stuff that Netexec does is nothing secret. Like these are known things, known POCs and known techniques, and just making the work easier and faster is one of the main goals of Netexec. Just speed up the process. Also, being a knowledge base, like if new stuff comes out, someone finds a new technique, like the rec dump and impact it. It's really nice to just have it in there so people know it and can use it quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any crossover on the Impact team with the people who are contributing to Netexec?
We
Not sure.
we work a lot on Impact too, and
Really?
yeah. So every time we make a new player to Impact, we send a message to the guys that are maintaining the project, but that's all.
Yeah, right on. I mean, I think I really think you guys are the true heroes of this industry. I recall there was one time I was sitting at a bar at a hotel with a convention in Austin, Texas. Um, and it was Netexec or something, I don't recall. But I sat down and I started talking to somebody, and he was one of the main contributors to Rubius. I'm forgetting his name. I feel bad for it. But I was just like, oh, let me buy you a drink. Let me buy you another. I know I owe you these drinks. Like, like that's whenever it comes to like this is it, the whole thing is really a community based industry, as well as just a passion and a hobby and everything. I mean, without the people really working on some of these core tools that we're using day to day, I mean, our jobs get a lot harder. We can't do as much as quickly also if you're
Yeah.
strictly using in-house things. You're building something to talk to a protocol. If there's not all this massive community support behind things, then we can't test as much, and then the customers are not as secure at the end of the day, which is just a net negative for all of kind of humanity. Which leads me to another thing I have written down. So this is something I've asked other people who've written. I've been asked this, I have my own thoughts, but when essentially it could be construed as maybe you're making a weapon, you're making a tool that can do damage or something like that. How do you guys feel about that? Sort of on the ethics of making offensive tooling.
So for me, making the offensive tooling is more about giving knowledge to people. Yeah, there is bad guy out there, and they will learn stuff from the tool we make. But the blue team also, the red team also, all the good guys will also learn a lot. And I think sharing is more interesting in terms of evolving all together than keeping all of our knowledge just for us. Yeah, I think sharing is better for this.
Yeah, I think I agree. Also, this knowledge that Netexec has, or the tools that Netexec uses, it's not secret, right?
Yeah.
Someone on the internet finds out, and either we utilize this to educate people, or someone opens up a pull request, so the community knows about this. But attackers will find out eventually and use this. And it's, in my opinion, better to have that in there and make people aware of it than not implementing it. And someday someone comes around and uses this large scale to attack companies, or yeah.
Yeah. There is a phrase, I'm not sure if you're familiar with, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And that's pretty much how I believe on any of the offensive tooling is get it out in the open, let everybody see, and everybody will know, okay, this is important. We need to fix this, or I didn't even know this existed. This is how we can fix this. I think it leads to generally much greater good, is my take on it. Of course, there's also the whole idea. This is much more red teaming than penetration testing, but all red teamers, we have our own tradecraft, right?
Sure.
And it's how much of that are you willing to burn? If you find something very, let's say you find, hypothetically, you found an ODay in Windows, you found an RCE in LDAP or something. Do you use this on your red teams, or do you report this to make sure that it's resolved? And that's also an interesting world that I think that we live in as offensive security guys.
Yeah. The choice can be hard sometimes, but it can be used, I think, for some red team. But most of the time, responsive disclosure is the way to go, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think most of the industry agrees with you, thankfully, which is why we have as good of security posture, just as humanity as a whole. Which is something that is also cool. Is security transcends all nations and everything. It's it doesn't matter where you are, or who you are. If you figure out something, everybody's interested in it.
Yeah, but
At least
for an enterprise, it's also interesting, I think, to train against 0 days. If a red team uses a 0 day, it can be realistic. So it's also interesting from that point of view.
generally, I would say we avoid using things that are too crazy. I think
Yeah.
there's a time and a place, but especially if the goal is adversarial emulation, and we're sitting on 0 days that nobody else has. Unless you're talking about nation state attacks, there's very niche. Red teaming itself is already much more niche than penetration testing or even purple teaming. True
Oh, yeah.
red teaming, where adversarial emulation is fairly niche, where there's not a whole lot of companies who are even ready for it, especially in the markets that we work in. And so it's an interesting thought of is using 0 days really something that's beneficial? Are you, because at the end of the day, your job is to help the customer be more secure. And are you doing that by hitting them with a 0 day? I think that's an interesting conversation to have as well.
Yeah. To be honest, I think it can help at some extent. It can help to manage the fact that sometimes attackers are more have secret stuff, and yeah, I don't think it's for everyone. I don't think it's for every enterprise. It's more like nation states, but I don't know. Maybe it can be interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Well, it's definitely fun. We can all agree on that. It's kind of, I do a lot of physical penetration testing,
Okay.
and one of the things that I always tell people is that people want us to do crazy stuff. They want us to repel from the ceiling, and realistically, a lot of people want us to clone a lot of cards. They want us to do OSINT, find out who works there, find out where they like to eat, go follow them to lunch with a hunt pad and clone their card and figure out what people wear there and make a badge and print the badge and dress up like that and swipe in with our clone card. And that's great. That can happen. But is it more realistic for me to do that, or to open up your door with a flathead screwdriver because you didn't fit your lock right?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you more concerned about, really? And so I think the same logic applies in red teaming. Is if I can take off the shelf exploits, and I can fish somebody in your help desk, I think that's a more realistic scenario most of the time, until you start getting into like nation state crazy stuff. So
Yeah.
that's my personal feel on it anyways.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I also agree on that, because if you receive a phishing mail or something and the attacker gains initial access, and suddenly your entire Active Directory is completely vulnerable because you've never done a pen test, but you have the best security in the world physically, that doesn't help you much. So I think a lot of companies, at least where we are, which we pen test, aren't really ready for a really true red team assessment, because there are so many issues that can be fixed with not low effort, but with less effort than doing a red team assessment. There's quite a lot of stuff to do also on the IT side of things.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. I think a lot of the people who come to us requesting that we do a red team, their patching protocols are questionable. They've got blatant Active Directory misconfigurations. They're a lot of the times it's like, okay, what you need is honestly maybe more of a risk assessment, and then 6 months later, let's do a penetration test, and then maybe we retest, and then let's maybe do a purple team and train up your blue team, and then maybe the next year we can talk about doing a red team. I feel like a lot of people are really several steps away from where they need to be for that, or they don't have the monitoring that they need to have in place for a real red team, where we'll do these purple team type of things where we sit down. Okay, we did this attack, do you see this? No, we don't see that. Okay, well, let's go to your sim. Our sim's not tuned at all. It's just out in the box, like that sort of thing. So
if one exists.
if they have
If there
one,
is,
that's very
yeah.
true. That's very true. I think I will say in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, it's much more common now for these small medium businesses. That's largely the land that I live in is small medium business. We do some large enterprise Fortune companies, but I would say probably 80% of what we do is a few hundred to a few thousand users. Most of it is not giant companies. And a lot of those companies 5 years ago, nobody had a SIM. Very few people had any kind of robust monitoring, but it is getting much better. I think that what's driving that also is I think all of the ransomware attacks and all of the actual attackers. I hate to credit it to an extent, but I think that they're actually moving the needle quite a lot, where people are realizing. I saw a talk recently at a conference where they had said Andrew Lemon, he had mentioned, if you know that somebody's going to break into your house tonight, are you going to go home, lock up like normally, or are you going to sit awake and you're going to grab whatever you have as a weapon and you're going to make sure everything's good to go? And he said the whole cyber situation should be treated as such, and people are going to try to break into your house tonight.
Absolutely. We also do incident response, and we see quite a lot of companies come to us after an incident happened. So ideally, you would have companies that are that want to build up their cybersecurity because they think that's a need for them. But often it's when it already happened and they didn't got destroyed, they come and say, "Okay, now we really should do something about cybersecurity."
Yeah, it's amazing how much money people find after there is an incident. When it was beforehand, oh, we couldn't possibly afford Splunk. Oh, we couldn't possibly afford Logarithm. After an incident happens, it's like, oh, it's only 200. Yeah, not.
Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I think I know the answer to this. I'm going to read this question verbatim that somebody had asked me. They said, "The tool is awesome. How do we give you guys money so you can keep doing awesome shit?"
Yeah, no, we don't have we don't have the link for it, but contribution, a weekly contribution is it's better than money. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just raise issues if you have some. Maybe we can drink a beer at a bar if we meet you someday. But that's it, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I definitely owe you guys lots of beers, I would say. Okay. One other thing somebody had asked about is adding functionality of NTL and relay. would there be any consideration of bundling an NTLM relay in with Netexec as is? I see that having logistical issues, but what do you guys think?
Yeah. So, do you want to start or?
No, yeah, go for it.
I think how Netexec is built is it would be really hard to integrate NTLM relay, and also NTLM relay as is quite a lot of code that would need to be integrated. So I think it doesn't really fit into Netexec, because how Netexec is built is that you spawn a protocol, and with that users and password flags and all sorts of stuff, and it's NTLM relay is something running, something utilizing incoming traffic to redirect it, and that's just I think, in my opinion, it wouldn't make so much sense to integrate it, because there is already NTLM relay, and integrated is really hard.
No,
But makes sense.
I kind of assumed that was the answer. So do you guys have a 2 or 3 year plan of kind of where do you guys want the project to go? Kind of what's maybe not long term, but semi long term. What's what are some of the goals for the project to be at?
I think we just want to still maintain it, and we want the project to continue to to evolve. That's the plan for me. I don't know, Alex, if you have something to add.
Taking it day by day.
Exactly. If we find awesome stuff, or people open up pull requests with awesome stuff, we will work on that. And as for now, fixing bugs, and there's already quite a lot of pull requests open that need to be worked on. So that's the plan for the immediate future. Yeah.
Okay, one more last question. So what do you guys recommend small businesses with limited resources do? Kind of tailored towards what we'd use Netexec for, but in general, you're experienced testers, you're knowledgeable in this field. Kind of, what would you say? Just a short blurb. What can small businesses do that have limited resources? Maybe their security team is 1 or 2 people, or even it's just a sysadmin who also has to do security. What is the simplest kind of straightforward things that they can do to be more secure from these type of attacks?
I think one stuff that can help is using Windows Firewall on Windows workstations, because if we can't reach the SMB ports, we can't use DPAPI, SAME, LSA functionality of Netexec, for example, and we can't do remote operation on the workstations. So that deletes a lot of targets from the scope.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I think Windows Firewall is pretty underutilized. So,
yeah. Just cut off the ports that we use, and the attacker has no attack surface, right?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I mean, attack surface reduction, right? That's I think that's a bit of a buzzword we hear a lot, but it's for a reason. It's if you can't reach it, it's very hard to attack it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and I think if companies have the time, I know that's not that easy, but building subnets, so you don't have a large subnets and then putting in firewall rules that block certain accesses. For example, domain controller shouldn't reach out into user networks, and you can mitigate quite a lot of stuff. If the attacker can't communicate, you can't own stuff. That's
totally agree.
That's very true.
Also, I think one of the easy thing that a small security team can do is using stuff like Ping Castle. So the Ping Castle is an Active Directory scanner for easy Active Directory vulnerabilities. And if you don't know anything about securing your Active Directory, I think this is a go-to for me.
Oh yes, definitely agree on this.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. We use Ping Castle when we do more of like a risk assessment type of thing. Yeah, Ping Castle, Purple Knight, Locksmith, yeah, the sort of thing. Yeah. Awesome. So do you guys have anything that maybe you were hoping I would ask that I didn't ask, or anything you guys wanted to say?
No for me.
Nothing for you?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it was really, really cool questions, really interesting stuff.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for taking your time out. I know you guys are all busy, so try not to keep you here too much longer. I could definitely just keep asking questions all day, but we'll try to limit it. Maybe if people like it enough, we'll do a round two when you guys have the next major update.
Awesome.
Well, yeah. So thank you guys so much. And what's the best way? You said people can hop on the Discord, everything like that. Should they just go to the wiki or the GitHub, or we'll give some links below? But how can people find the Discord?
I think there is a link on the wiki for the Discord. I don't know if there is also maybe the link on the GitHub.
Also, yeah,
Okay.
it's on the README. Just go on the GitHub page and you will find the Discord link. And yeah, in the wiki.
Awesome. Well, we'll link to that in the description under the podcast. So anybody who is wanting to check this out, who hasn't yet, go ahead and check it down there. You can pull it from the GitHub and start playing with it, or join the Discord, and feel free to get active in there. Like they said, they're looking for contributors. You got some ideas, they're looking. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for taking time out, and thank you everybody for checking out another episode of the Secure After Dark podcast.